Hi all, welcome to another Studio 180 Design educational video. Today we're going to talk about my corner pop tool, and it's a tool that I developed to work with a technique that I've always called folded corners. Now, most of you have done these before in the past, I'm sure. It's where you take a small square, you put it in the corner of a large square, you mark the diagonal guidelines, stitch on the line, and fold that small square back into place to put a pop of color on the corner of your base shape. Now, it seems easy and it seems like it should be right, but I know me, if I were putting 4 corners on, one would be too short, one would be too long, one would be wonky, and one of them might actually be right. So the corner pop tool approaches this pop of color on the corner of a shape differently. What the corner pop tool is going to do is they're actually going to trim away a 90-degree corner, leave a necessary 1/4 inch seam on the base shape. So then I can place an oversized triangle completely overfilling the corner and then trim it to a very precise size and shape. Give me a minute to clear the decks and we'll show you from the beginning how this tool works. When you look at the corner pop tool, you're going to see it has a couple different sections on it. It has 2 sections that you'll use for cutting away the corner to one of 22 sizes. And then it has a section here that you use to place on the sewn and pressed seam to trim it up nice and square and nice and clean. Inside the set of instructions, there are diagrams to help you figure out what it is you want to do. But more importantly, there's a chart. And the chart is there to help you figure out how you can use the corner pop tool with any pattern that has a folded corner process. And what you'll do if you have a pattern that uses folded corners, whatever they tell you to cut for the base shape, whether it's a square or rectangle, the base shape stays the same. Pattern told me 6.5, I cut this 6.5. If I want to put on, let's say we're going to put this small triangle on first. The pattern tells me to cut that 2.5 inches. Well, I know, because I do math all the time, that a 2.5 inch cut square is going to result in a 2-inch finished replacement triangle. But I know there are a lot of you out there that really don't want to have to do math when you're doing your hobby, when you're doing quilting. What the chart will tell you is the numbers that you need on the tool to be able to make this happen. The chart will tell you that a 2.5 inch square is going to be a 2-inch finished replacement triangle. That's the size that you're going to use on the tool to do your cutaway. So we've got cutaway lines. We've got 22 different size options. We've got cutaway lines for 1/2 inch here, cutaway lines for 1/4 and 3/4 inch here. We need to trim away for a 2-inch replacement corner. So what I'm going to do is move this over here. I'm going to find the 2-inch lines that are on the tool, place them right against the corner of my block, my base square, make a cut. What I've done is I've trimmed away what I don't need, but the 1/4 inch that I need to stitch is still intact on this base square. Those replacement triangles that I'm going to use are oversized, which means I only have to cut 1 square to get 2 triangles and not cut 4 different squares for my corners. This, I'm not looking at any lines at all on my tool. All I'm doing, cutting that square in half into oversized triangles. The next step is very, very simple. Position that oversized triangle on top of your base square. I like to stitch with the base square on top so I can keep a good eye on my trimmed corner, and I can keep an eye on those triangle points to make sure that I'm pretty much in the center. I don't have to fuss a whole lot. But once I've stitched and pressed, and I'm going to do this on both sides, I'm going to trim, position, stitch, press, do it on both sides. You can see how those triangles completely overfill. Now I get to come back, and I like to trim down because trimming makes me a better quilter. It makes me have better units and makes me a better quilter. Trimmed away for a 2-inch replacement triangle. What I'm now looking at is the 2-inch guideline on the corner trim down section of the tool. Those guidelines, when I place them over top of the seam, Placing the edge of the ruler against the edge here is going to give me a perfectly, get in there a little tighter, it's going to give me a perfect corner. The seam is no longer going to be wonky. It's placed exactly where it needs to be. I'm not trimming anything. Well, I got a couple threads there, but I'm essentially not trimming anything from that base square. The edges are clean. The seam is properly placed, and it's placed so that the distance, if it needs to match with anything else, is there to match where it needs to be. When I go to add the next folded square into the corner, again, the instructions will tell you what size to cut a folded square. They told me 3.5 inches. When I look at the chart will tell me that the finished size of the replacement triangle with that size folded corner square will be 3 inches. That's my focus point. I'm going to use the 3-inch line on the tool for my cutaway, but the chart will also tell you what size square you need to cut so that when you cut it in half, these triangles will be slightly bigger than they need to be. So keep that chart handy so that you have all those reference numbers. What I would do, again, for the process is find my 3-inch cutaway lines on the tool, place those guidelines in the square corner, trim away what I don't need, leave the 1/4 of an inch that I do need on the base, place the oversized triangle, position the base on top for your stitching and your positioning, and when I'm done, the corner will be completely filled. There is one option that you get with this that you don't have with the folded corner process. The folded corner process always had the seams being pressed out. And sometimes if you were putting two pieces together, it created a bulky intersection. The nice thing about this is it's a simple seam. I can press it out if I want to, but I can also take this seam and I can press it in toward the middle. And if I'd like to, I can also press the seam open. I've got pressing options that I didn't ever have with the folded corner. But the corner will be overfilled. When I go to trim it down, I cut away for a 3-inch replacement triangle. That's the size that I use on the corner trim down. The 3-inch guideline goes there. The edge of the ruler lines up with the edge of the block. When I make the trim, what I'll be doing is ending up with a perfect corner. Now, I've been showing you all right-handed trimming, but again, those of you who know me, you know that it's just as easy to do left-handed. I place the tool and unit this way to do right-handed, but left-handers, all you do is place your trim down corner in the upper left-hand corner. You can use the same tool, use the same guidelines, and easily trim your piece if you are left-handed. So what you'll end up with is a perfect unit with seams properly placed. Every edge is nice and square. And you're seeing me place colored triangles on a simple square here. But I want you to realize you can put a pop of color on any 90-degree corner. Looking at these two little shapes, aren't they fun? They are half square triangles. Put a pop of color on one, put a pop of color across the seam. As a designer, I'm all over this. There's all kinds of different things I can do. These are two units that are from our split rectangle tool. Put a pop of color on either one of those. Now I could put those together if I wanted to in a couple of different ways to maybe do some interesting block building. They don't have to be squares. I can put them on rectangles. If I do something like this for sashing, oh my gosh, what do you have? You have stars at your intersections of your stashing. You can make chevrons. Start with a rectangle, put one pop of color on one corner, one pop of color on another. This is an example of a V-block. I make the V-block, trim it so that it's nice and square. Then I'll come back with my corner pop tool. This one's just placed on there right now. You can see what I would do. Take the V-block, trim it properly, cut away, add the oversized triangle, come back with this, place on the line, and trim it to proper size. It's fun to add pops of color to units. You can add pops of color to blocks. You can keep going and going and going. This is one that's on my bucket list. Wouldn't that be a fun one to make? So think about putting the corner pop tool into your toolbox. You can pick those up at your local quilt shop. If they don't have them, you come check us out at our website, studio180design.net. We'll get these in your hand, and you're going to have better success, you're going to have less stress, and you're going to be making better quilts with your new corner pop tool.